Garry Tan is the CEO of Y Combinator. He helps thousands of founders a year build real startups. And right now, he is up until 2 in the morning, almost every night, writing code. Why? Because in the last 5 months, AI made him a builder again, not toy projects, real systems that compound. Garry just published one of the most important essays of the year. It is called Meta Prompting, the secret to making AI agents work. He open sourced the entire stack. And he laid out, with specific examples, what personal AI actually looks like when you stop treating it as a chat window and start treating it as an operating system. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what he built, the architecture behind it, and the loop you can use to build your own. Let us get into it. Here is the thesis. Garry has been hammering for months across a series of posts called Fat Skills, Fat Code, Thin Harness. The LLM on its own is just an engine. You can build your own car. The model is interchangeable. Today, it is Opus 4.7 with a 1 million token window. Tomorrow, it is something else. The compounding value is not in the model. It is in the skills you write, the data you accumulate, and the harness that routes between them. The future, Garry argues, belongs to individuals who build compounding AI systems, not to individuals who use corporate owned, centralized AI tools. The difference is the difference between keeping a journal and having a nervous system. That line is the whole essay. Now, let us look at what that nervous system actually does. Last month, Garry was reading Pema Chödrön's When Things Fall Apart. 162 pages, 22 chapters on Buddhist approaches to suffering, groundlessness, and letting go. A friend had recommended it during a hard period. So Garry asked his AI to do something he calls a book mirror. What that means concretely. The system extracted all 22 chapters of the book. Then for each chapter, it ran a subagent that did two things at once. It summarized what the author was actually saying, and it mapped every idea to Garry's actual life. Not generic this applies to leaders problem. Specific mapping. Because the system already knew his family history. His parents from Hong Kong, Singapore, and Burma. His professional context running YC, what he had been reading, what he had been thinking about at 2 a.m., what his therapist had been working on with him. The output was a 30,000 word brain page. Each chapter rendered as two columns. What Pema says on the left, how it maps to what Garry is actually living through on the right. The chapter on groundlessness connected to a specific founder conversation he had had the week before. The chapter on fear mapped to patterns his therapist had identified. The chapter on letting go referenced a late night session where Garry had written about the creative freedom he had found this year. The whole thing took about 40 minutes. Garry's claim is striking. A $300 an hour therapist reading this book and applying it to his life could not produce this in 40 hours. Because the therapist does not have the full graph of his professional context, his reading history, his meeting notes, and his founder relationships, all loaded and cross-referenceable in one place. He has done this with over 20 books now. Each one gets richer because the brain itself gets richer. The second mirror knew about the first. The 20th knew about all 19. But here is the part most people skip. The first book mirror Garry did was terrible. Version 1 had 3 factual errors about his family. It said his parents were divorced when they were not. Said he grew up in Hong Kong when he was actually born in Canada. Basic stuff that could have damaged trust if he had shared it. So he added a mandatory fact check step. Every mirror now runs cross-modal evaluation against known facts in the brain before it ships. Opus 4.7 catches precision errors, GPT 5.5 catches missing context. DeepSeek 5.4 Pro catches when something reads as generic. Then he upgraded to deep retrieval. Version 3 does per section, brain searches. Every right column entry cites actual brain pages. When the book talks about difficult conversations, it pulls from his actual meeting notes with specific founders who were having tough conversations with co founders, or an idea he had on a Thursday hanging out with his brother James, or an instant message with his college roommate when he was 19. The fix got baked into the skill. Every mirror since has been clean. Which brings us to the recursive part. And this is where the biggest insight lives. The system that runs Garry's life did not exist as a monolith. It was assembled from skills. And those skills were themselves created by a skill. Skillify is a meta skill that creates new skills. When Garry encounters a workflow, he is going to repeat. He says, Skillify this. The system examines what just happened, extracts the repeatable pattern, writes a tested skill file with triggers and edge cases, and registers it in the resolver. The book mirror pipeline was skillified from the very first time he did it manually. The meeting prep workflow was skillified after he noticed he was doing the same steps before every call. And skills compose. Book mirror calls brain ops for storage, enrich for context, cross-modal eval for quality, and PDF generation for output. When Garry improves one skill, every workflow that uses it gets better automatically. No more forgot to mention this edge case in my prompt. The skill remembers. Here is what this looks like in the wild. Demis Hassabis came to YC for a fireside chat. Sebastian Malaby's biography of him had just come out. Garry asked the system to prep him. In under 2 minutes, it pulled together everything. Demis's full brain page, which had been accumulating for months from articles, podcast transcripts, and Garry's own notes. His published beliefs about AGI timelines, 50% scaling, 50% innovation, AGI 5 to 10 years away. The Malaby biography highlights his stated research priorities, continual learning, world models, long-term memory, cross-references to things Garry had said publicly about AI. 3 demo scripts for showing the brain's multi-hop reasoning capability live during the conversation, and a set of conversation hooks based on where their worldviews overlap and diverge. This was not a better Google search. This was preparation that used Garry's accumulated context about Demis, his own positions, and the strategic goals for the conversation. The system prepped not just facts, but angles. All of this runs on top of a structured knowledge base of about 100,000 pages. Every person Garry meets gets a page with a timeline, a state section for what is currently true, open threads, and a score. Every meeting gets a transcript, a structured summary, and something he calls entity propagation. After every meeting, the system walks through every person and company mentioned and updates their brain pages with what was discussed. Every book gets a chapter by chapter mirror. Every article, podcast, and video he engages with gets ingested, tagged, and cross referenced. The schema is simple. Each page has compiled truth at the top, the current best understanding, an append only timeline below, events in chronological order, and raw data sidecars for source material. Think of it as a personal Wikipedia where every page is continuously updated by an AI that was at the meeting, read the email, watched the talk, and ingested the PDF. This is the difference between having a filing cabinet and having a nervous system. Now, here is the architecture. 3 layers. The harness is thin. OpenClaw is the runtime Garry uses. It receives his messages, figures out which skill applies, and dispatches. A few thousand lines of routing logic. It does not know anything about books or meetings or founders. It just routes. The skills are fat. Over 100 of them now, each a self contained Markdown file with detailed instructions for one specific task. The data is fat. 100,000 pages of structured knowledge in the brain repo. Every person, company, meeting, book, article, and idea, all linked, all searchable, all growing every day. The code is fat too. The scripts that feed the system, transcription, OCR, social media archival, calendar sync. Gary runs more than 100 crons per day that quietly check everything he pays attention to. And the models are interchangeable. Opus 4.7 for precision, GPT 5.5 for recall, DeepSeek for creative work, Grok with Llama for speed. The skill decides which model to call for which task. The harness does not care. Let us look at a few of the skills that ship with GBrain, the open source brain Gary built. Meeting ingestion. After every meeting, it pulls the transcript, creates a structured summary, then walks through every person and company mentioned and updates their brain pages. The meeting page is not the end product. The propagation back to every entity is the real value. Enrich. Give it a person's name. It pulls from 5 different sources, merges everything into a single brain page with career arc, contact info, meeting history, and relationship context, with cited sources on every claim. Media ingest. Hand it a video, audio file, PDF, screenshot, or GitHub repo. It transcribes, extracts entities, and files everything to the right brain location. Perplexity research. Brain augmented web research. Before synthesizing what Perplexity found, it checks what the brain already knows, so it can tell you what is actually new versus what you already captured. When someone asks Gary how he prompts his AI, the answer is I do not. The skills are the prompts. People ask Gary about productivity. He does not think about it that way. What he thinks about is compounding. Every meeting he takes adds to the brain. Every book he reads enriches the context for the next book. Every skill he builds makes the next workflow faster. Every person page he updates makes the next meeting prep sharper. The system today is 10 times what it was 2 months ago, and 2 months from now, it will be 10 times again. When he is up at 2 a.m. coding, he's not just writing software. He's adding to a system that gets better every hour. 100 cron jobs, 24/7. The meeting ingestion runs automatically. The email triage runs every 10 minutes. The knowledge graph enriches itself from every conversation. This is not a writing tool. It is not a search engine. It is not a chatbot. It is a second brain that actually works, not as a metaphor. As a running system with 100,000 pages, over 100 skills, and the accumulated context of every professional relationship and idea Gary has engaged with in the last year. So, how do you actually start building this? Gary gives 4 steps. Step 1. Pick a harness. OpenClaw, Hermes agent, or build your own from scratch with Pi. Keep it thin. The harness is just the router. Host it on a spare computer at home with Tailscale or on Render or Railway in the cloud. Step 2. Start a brain with GBrain. Gary got inspired by Karpathy's LLM wiki, implemented it in OpenClaw, and extended it into GBrain. He claims it is the best retrieval system he has benchmarked. 97.6% recall on LongMem eval, beating MemPalace with no LLM in the retrieval loop. One command to install. A Git repo where every person, meeting, article, and idea gets a page. Step 3. Do something interesting. Do not start by planning your skill architecture. Start by doing a thing. Write a report. Research a person. Analyze your portfolio. Whatever you actually care about. Do it with your agent. iterate until it is good, then run Skillify to extract the pattern into a reusable skill. That loop turns one off work into compounding infrastructure. Step 4, keep using it and look at the output. The skill will be mediocre at first. That is the point. Use it, read what it produces, and when something is off, run cross-modal eval. Send the output through multiple models and have them score each other on the dimensions you care about. That is how Garry caught the factual errors in Book Mirror. The fix got baked into the skill, and every mirror since has been clean. In 6 months, you will have something no chatbot can replicate because the value is not in the model. It is in what you have taught the system about your specific life, work, and judgment. The first thing Garry built with this was terrible. The 100th was something he would trust with his calendar, his inbox, his meeting prep, and his reading list. The system learned. He learned. The compound curve is real. Fat skills, fat code, thin harness. Everything is open source on GitHub at Garry Tan/GBrain. Go build. Quick personal ask before we wrap. 90% of the people who watch this channel never subscribe. If this video helped you in your AI journey, please hit subscribe and support the channel. And just to be clear, subscribing on YouTube is not the same as following the Hyperautomation Labs page on Facebook. They are completely separate things. Subscribers are the single biggest signal that helps the channel grow. And right now, we are early enough that subscribing actually moves the needle. Subscribe early, win early. And here is your gift. I distilled Garry's entire system into a free 7-day plan. It is called Build Your Own Second Brain in 7 days. Day 1, pick your harness. Day 2, install your brain. Day 3, do your first real workflow. Day 4, run Skillify. Day 5, cross-modal eval. Day 6, add a cron. Day 7, ship it. Comment the word second below this video and I will send you the PDF. Comment second and it is yours. Catch you in the next one.